Hey Smarter Vets, it's Friday, so you know what that means. It is time for another frequently asked question, and hopefully I can give another frequently given answer. Today's question is around business ownership. So all of you Smarter Vets who are business owners or maybe are thinking about becoming business owners, maybe even you've owned a practice for 20, 30 years, now you're thinking about exiting, this one is really for you. What are some things I should be doing now if I plan to exit my business in 5 to 7 years? Probably one of the most loaded questions I've ever gotten, especially because there's so much to think about. One of the reasons why business owners will, like when I sit down with a business owner and I say, hey, when, if they're in their 50s or their 60s, I will typically ask, when do you expect to exit your business? When do you expect to sell it? And they usually give an answer like somewhere between 5 and 7 years. And then if I came back to them 5 years from now without doing anything, and I asked them, hey, when do you think you'll exit your practice? 5 to 7 years. It's this rolling 5 to 7 year period. It just always seems to be put off and put off and put off. And the reason is because it is such a huge thing to think about. Like you're selling your business. That thing that you've been working in for the last 20, 30 years, maybe even less, maybe 10 years, it's part of like your identity. It's part of your lifestyle, right? It's so much a part of you that to imagine selling it can be very difficult. So today I'm going to go through 5 different things that I think you should start really investigating if you're within 5 to 7 years of actually trying to sell the business. Now, if you have no plan whatsoever, you're not alone. You're not very unlike most practice owners who are out there that believe that they're going to sell in 5 to 7 years and have no idea how they're going to sell it. So let's start with some of these things that we need to think about if we're going to be exiting in 5 to 7 years. First, finding the gap. So there's a certain amount of assets that you're going to need in order to live the lifestyle that you want in retirement. That number of assets there's actually a gap there, right? Because you have your personal assets and you have your business value. And then that gap between the value, the summation of both of those things, your personal assets and the business value, there's a gap between that amount and the amount of money that you're going to need in order to retire successfully. A lot of the time, getting an understanding, a perfect vision of what that looks like. What does retirement look like for you? So sometimes selling a business is scary because we don't know what's on the other side of the transaction. We don't know what life looks like. So start thinking now. Vision. I know this sounds weird and corny, and we talk about vision boards probably a lot more than most people, but create a vision board or at least write down, like, what does life look like? What are you doing every day when you get to retirement, when you sell your business and you're no longer a business owner? What is it exactly that you're going to spend time doing? Now, don't speak in generalities. Well, I'm going to go on vacation. Well, I'm going to go see my kids. I'm going to go fly to see my grandkids more. Like, specifically think about because you can only golf so long. You can only go golf every week for about 6 months. I mean, maybe some of you could probably do it indefinitely. I know I can't, right? I can only golf for so long before I get bored and then I want to go do something else. So get a vision of what that looks like. What is that gap of your assets, right? And what is the vision whenever you do actually sell? What is that other side of that transaction going to look like when every day's a Saturday and you don't have to be anywhere on time? Another thing to think about, other than the gap, other than the vision, is to start thinking about how you're going to maximize the value of the business. So that gap that exists, there's 2 ways to there's 3 ways to close that gap. The first way to close that gap is to increase the business value. So if you're able to increase the business value quickly or sometime over the next 5 to 7 years, then you're going to start closing that gap between what you need and what you have. And those are things like looking internally on how profitability is being managed, how you pay people, financial tracking systems, all of those things internally within the business on how you're going to make the business more profitable. Another thing to think about, plan for who you are going to sell it to. So there's really only 3 ways to exit a business. You can either sell to somebody who is currently in the business, sell to somebody who is outside the business, sometimes it's a corporation or a group, And then the third way is to basically die owning the practice. There's only 3 ways to exit your business. So as you're thinking through this, right, you think about who do you want to sell the business to first, create a plan around that, and then also have a plan B and a plan C. Like what does the financial plan look like walking through the door that you want, but then recognize that sometimes we're forced to walk through one of the other 2 doors that we necessarily didn't want to do, but because of circumstance and because of how things have ended up going on through life, that's just what we're going to have to do. So who are you going to sell it to? An insider, an outsider, or do you plan to own the business until you die? Which we've met a few people that actually do plan to own the business until they die. Another thing to think about is how are you coordinating your personal plan with your business plan? So they're not independent, right? There's not a whole lot of separation between the 2. We oftentimes will talk about how you create some separation as far as risk is concerned. But for the most part, your personal plan and your business plan need to have some coordination. They have to go together to make a cohesive plan overall for when you actually exit the business. And the other side of the transaction is a little bit more known when it comes to your personal finances. Another thing, last thing, find a financial advisor who can get you a plan and not just sell you an annuity or manage your investments. Like, get a real plan together. A plan a good plan has a plan when nothing goes according to plan, right? So a good balanced plan, especially from the personal side, on how you're going to get income in retirement is important. Some people come to us and believe that they need $6 million to retire, and we're able to show them how to do it in 4. Well, if your gap is large, and you're recognizing, okay, I need 6, I have 2, and I've got 5 to 7 years to basically increase that, to close that gap of 4 million. Well, if we can increase the business value, if we can help you increase your personal assets through transferring business wealth and translating it into personal wealth, then we can reduce the gap, bring the gap down from 6 to 4, because you'll be able to retire on 4, not 6, because you now have a plan on how you're going to spend your assets in retirement. Well, if you take those 3 things, that trifecta, if you will, and you coordinate all that together, now you have a comprehensive plan on how you're going to exit your business in the next 5 to 7 years. And keep in mind, sometimes your exit in the business doesn't have to be the day you retire. You can retire first, or you can retire after. You can play with that, provided that your business plan is tilting towards an autonomous model, not a genius model. We have a whole webinar on how it's actually race approved. If you want to go watch it on our website, there's a whole webinar about how to create some distinction between the genius model and the autonomous model. But really getting a good plan together so that over the next 5 to 7 years you have clarity on what you need, not just to do in the next 5 years or 7 years, but also in the next 1 year, in the next 6 months, in the next 3 months, and then you can back your way, start with the end in mind, and then back your way into what you need to do today. Now, if you don't know any advisors who can actually do that, right, take the personal plan and the business plan and mold them together, I have good news for you. Head on over to our website, fill out the Contact Us form. Just give us a little bit of an idea of who you are and what you're looking to accomplish. One of our team members will actually reach out to you and be able to schedule a no obligation meeting. You get 30 to 45 minutes with a qualified financial advisor, and we'll make sure that we try to get you all of the information that you need on how we might be able to help you. So that's it. See you guys next time. Have a great weekend.